Now, I did post this exact video on my second channel. Since my second channel isn't that well known, go subscribe to my second channel, by the way, I figured I'd post this video here. And it's honestly so relevant that I should have just posted it here out of the gate, right out of the gate. But I guess I'll have the same video on both my channels now, so yeah, enjoy, or don't. Like and subscribe, comment, blah, 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 I don't know. Big YouTuber nonsense. It appears that the mega mergers are still going on to some apparent extent, because now I hear that Union Pacific plans to acquire Norfolk Southern. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious, people? What is wrong with you? Union Pacific, what are you doing? Now, I probably already got some comments before this video even finished, before anyone let me explain, oh, why are you going on about this? All of y'all shut the fuck up for a second and let me explain. This is a bad idea. I don't care what anyone else says, but Union Pacific acquiring Norfolk Southern is a really, really bad idea. But before I explain why, I'm gonna take y'all back to mid to late 1990s, or just the entire decade of the entire 90s decade in general. When Conrail was still around, there was basically Union Pacific, Southern Pacific. Like, there were more Class 1s, and UP acquired SP, Chicago Northwestern, and a few others that I can't really name off the top of my head. And then Conrail was split in the late 90s between Norfolk Southern and CSX. Now, the mega mergers of the 90s was, some people see it as kind of a bad idea in the long run. I don't think this new talk of UP acquiring Norfolk Southern, I don't think it helps at all. I think it in fact makes it a lot worse. But for the moment, we are sticking to the east. When Conrail was still around, it seemed to have broken up the free market a little bit when it came to Class 1 railroads. Now, I want you to forget about all the Class 2s, Class 3s, and short lines for a minute, and focus purely on the Class 1s, at least in North America. And I'm not counting, and I'm going to stress this right now, I am not counting Canadian National nor Canadian Pacific. I am not counting any of those, because this doesn't apply to them. So, yeah. When Norfolk Southern and CSX, split Conrail, when they split Conrail, the whole point I'm trying to make is, it made it so there's, only 4 Class 1s in America. Again, not counting Canada. Being Union Pacific, BNSF, Norfolk Southern, and CSX. And those are the 4 Class 1s that we still have now. Again, excluding Canada. And with this new information about UP planning to acquire Norfolk Southern, or at least having, thoughts about it, at minimum, this throws the free market out the window, for one thing. And you guys might be saying, well, why are you mentioning the free market, though? I will explain why I'm mentioning the free market. Because if Union Pacific does acquire Norfolk Southern, if they, there's a chance they won't, but let's just say hypothetically they do. Hypothetically, if Union Pacific acquires Norfolk Southern, no matter how controversial and how hated they are, that gives Union Pacific more leeway or more ability to potentially exploit a monopoly throughout their system and Norfolk Southern system. And the whole point I'm trying to make is, if Union Pacific acquires Norfolk Southern, that opens the door for them to potentially monopolize all of their trackage. And anti-consumer 101. I mean, come on. And I don't see any benefits towards it. I really don't. And I'm sure some Steam fans, and believe me, I'm a Steam fan myself. If my channel wasn't already, like, if my YouTube channel showing a shit ton of Steam more than Diesel was obvious enough. This is, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I don't even know what Union Pacific is planning or anything like that. And I understand Norfolk Southern is going through a shit ton in terms of being the most hated Class 1 railroad, especially after the whole East Palestine wreck, which from what I heard, this is purely what I see on news articles. I have no idea what's actually happening. You can't trust anything on the internet. But the point I'm trying to make is, Norfolk Southern is still dealing with the East Palestine wreck, and from what I understand, they're just trying to cover it up like nothing happened. Now, I could be wrong on this, but if that is what Norfolk Southern is doing, NS, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? So, anyway, honestly, I should be questioning both, UP, Union Pacific, Norfolk Southern, what are you doing? Seriously, this is not something that should happen. I don't care what anyone else says. This is my opinion. Norfolk Southern shouldn't be, if anything, if it were up to me, for example, if I was the owner of Norfolk Southern, I would split Norfolk Southern into at least 2 or 3 separate rail companies. Just to break up the free, just to have more of a free market for people. But of course, that's not what's happening, and that definitely isn't what happened. And it seems like Union Pacific doesn't want any, and it seems like Union Pacific just wants to monopolize on the entire country, it seems. Now, obviously, that's not what anyone's saying. No one's saying that Union Pacific's trying to monopolize the entirety of America's rail lines. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's their secret intention. And again, that's just speculation, but, no evidence pointing towards that. So I suppose UP just wants to acquire Norfolk Southern. It's still bad either way. No matter what, it is still a bad idea. And again, considering Norfolk Southern is still dealing with, I think, lawsuits and stuff from the East Palestine wreck, you'd think Union Pacific wouldn't want to deal with that. Even though they dealt with the even though they were witnessing the Penn Central embargo, and they were talking with Rock Island to merge at the time. I think it was late 60s, early 70s. They were talking about merging, and then, when Union Pacific, when the ICC approved the merger between the Rock Island and the Union Pacific, well, it was already too late. Union Pacific no longer wanted them, and then Penn Central was taking over. The Penn Central fiasco started, and then UP was just like, nah, we gotta stay on our side here in the West. But now it seems like they're trying to get back to the East again. And look, I'm gonna be honest. Look, most of this video has probably just been me ranting and stuttering. Most of the stuttering is just from how flabbergasted I am by this whole thing. It just fucking flabbergasts me that Union Pacific would even want to acquire another Class 1. They already are a Class 1. They already, what do they want? More money? Use the money for 844 or 4014 or something like that. Granted, I don't like 4014. I wish it wasn't in service, but then again, that's already out the window. And it's just my opinion, so I have no say in what Union Pacific does. It's just my opinion. But, the whole steam locomotives running in preservation on the main line is pretty much out of the question here. It's not even about that. It is about one Class 1 trying to acquire another, and the one they are trying to acquire is massive, almost as big as Union Pacific, taking the entire half, the entire east of the United States alongside CSX. Norfolk Southern and CSX are supposed to be competing with each other, and then when Union Pacific comes into the picture, again, hypothetically, if this merger does happen, CSX and BNSF will basically have no competition at that point. And yes, I am going that far with it. Like, BNSF and CSX would not be able to compete with Union Pacific by the time, like, the point I'm trying to make is, if Union Pacific does acquire Norfolk Southern, not only is the free market going to go out the window, but other railroads aren't going to be able to compete against Union Pacific, considering Union Pacific's massive size, and they'll end up making, like I said at the beginning of this, they're going to monopolize that entire trackage that they just now acquired, if that went through. So think about that hard for a second. Like, think hard about that for a second. If you were the owner of Norfolk Southern, CSX, any rail company, like any rail company, if you were the owner and another railroad wanted to buy you out, and your system was just as big as theirs, if not a tiny bit smaller or a tiny bit bigger, around the same size mileage-wise and profit-wise, would you let them acquire you? Be honest with me on that. Because I sure as hell wouldn't. I sure as hell would not allow a major class 1, like, almost the same size as Georgia Penn System, for example, being my own fictional. I wouldn't let a class 1 buy out Georgia Penn System because it throws the free market out the window. Like, there will be less class 1s. I mean, yeah, sure, it's one less class 1. That still is one less class 1. And like I said earlier, no matter how hated and how controversial and how annoying Norfolk Southern is, I still don't agree with this whole thing. That's just my opinion. Maybe you have your own. Let me know in the comments. And yeah, I guess that's the end of this video.